boardrooms, but for most Canadians this summer, the big story may simply be that it's summertime. Early statistics seem to indicate Canadians are generally staying close to home and enjoying or complaining about the weather. So tonight we thought we'd try an informal survey of Canada's mood this summer. Is it a time of quiet relaxation or quiet desperation? In a moment, we'll sample opinions from Vancouver to Portugal Cove, Newfoundland. But first, here's a glimpse of what summer's been like so far across the country.
Expecting a high of 35 degrees later today, and there is a chance of an afternoon thundershower.
More of what we're getting. Hot, hazy, humid for the next couple of days.
Afternoon showers and thunder showers.
It's issued a severe thunderstorm warning. Thunderstorms are moving into the area, so
what's happening is we have an unsettled air mass over the region right now, which is going to maintain mostly cloudy skies.
Earlier this week, Ian talked to 4 people who are plugged into what's happening in their parts of the country. In Vancouver, writer-composer John Gray. In Winnipeg, TV producer and sportscaster Peter Jordan. In Montreal, Katie Malloch, host of CBC Radio's Jazz Beat. And in Portugal Cove, Newfoundland, actor Rick Mercer. Here's Ian.
we're trying to get a sense of the summer of '93, so let's start on the right side of the country. What's the summer been like in Newfoundland?
The summer here has been awful. Basically, that's it. We've had the worst July since 1946. A couple of days ago, I picked up the newspaper. It was 4 degrees. The headline said, "Pipe still frozen in parts of Labrador," and the other headline said, "Psychiatric situation desperate, no help for Corner Brook." And that basically sums up summer in Newfoundland so far.
And we're almost to the end of July. Any relief in sight?
Well, you know, we always have a good August, and the silver lining is the blueberries are going to be good.
So let's go to the wet coast. John Gray, you're used to weather like this. What's the summer been like so far in Vancouver?
Well, for the last week it was lovely. In fact, this morning I got on my bike in order to demonstrate the outdoor lifestyle, the youthful nature of the place. But now we've gone back to that state of gentle melancholy that we've come to know and love for about the past year and a half.
Now, Peter, the one thing, the best characteristic of Winnipeg I hear time and time again is sunshine. But you're standing in water. What's been going on there?
What's been our reward for the worst winter in history, the worst summer in history? We've had so much rain, the city is completely underwater. But we're Manitobans, we're a hardy bunch, we're mad and we're not going to take it anymore. What we've been doing is we're getting out here anyway. I'm standing on a soccer pitch. We had a heck of a game of water polo here last night.
So what do you do in Winnipeg for a barbecue this summer?
Garage barbecuing has been very, very big. Now all you do is you get all your friends over, you get the car out of the garage, you open the door and you have a few drinks, and you know, it's almost like the real thing, Ian.
Almost sounds environmentally incorrect, though.
You can tend to get a little smoked out, but...
Now, I've been in Toronto here for about just over a week, and the one thing I'm struck by is every sidewalk seems to be ripped up, and they're doing some construction on it. And I was reading earlier today that in Montreal, Katie, you have some sort of construction holiday. What's that all about?
Well, I gather you don't have this in any other part of the country, and it's a wonderful idea. For the last 2 weeks of July, all of the private contractors, plumbers, electricians, people who are working on construction in all houses, including Brian Mulroney's house, which I'm glad to say is conforming to the laws of the construction holiday. All the construction workers, except those who are working on the roads, take a break. They all take their holiday at the same time. They pile out of the city. The city is empty and beautiful, no traffic problems. They actually give traffic reporters 2 weeks off because there's nothing for them to talk about while the construction holiday is on. So it gives you that really nice kind of private feeling that the city is almost your your own personal playground for those 2 weeks at least.
Now, Katie, it seems every time I look at a newspaper article about summer in Montreal, it's either one fair or festival or another. And, where are you on the calendar right now in terms of summer festivals?
Well, we finished the Fireworks Festival, we finished the Jazz Festival. We're in the middle of the Just for Laughs Festival, which is a comedy festival with lots of comedy going on the streets and on a number of stages around town. We still have the Film Festival to go, and then the most melancholy one of all, because summer's always turning to fall, is the Festival of New Dance, which is usually early in September. So it's right, there's a summer calendar where you can demark the evolution of time and say, uh-oh, it's time to start buying the kids their clothes for school, because the Just for Laughs Festival is over. Oh, the Film Festival, I forgot, in August, which is another big punctuation point. So that's how we measure the passage of our summers here in Montreal. And it's been beautiful this year. We had a lousy winter, we had a lousy last summer, and I knew people were gritting their teeth and saying if we have another bad one, there were going to be a lot of very unhappy Montrealers. But so far, today being a minor exception, it's been a beautiful, beautiful summer.
Now, it sounds like, and this is, I guess, fairly typically Canadian, that weather is having a very strong imprint on how we feel about this summer of '93. But Rick, out in Newfoundland, we hear so much across the country, but especially in Atlantic Canada, about the economy and the upcoming federal election, the politics and the recession and that sort of thing. What kind of impact have politics and the economy had on the summer, do you figure?
Well, I think, the tourists are still coming. I mean, Newfoundland runs these ads down in New York and such, where there's heat waves that show, glorious big icebergs and whales frolicking in the ocean and stuff. So I think they're coming. So I don't know if tourism is down so much, I think people probably, in terms of politics, I don't know if they blame this weather on Kim Campbell or not, but it has been since Kim has been our Prime Minister, of course, that she's really gone to the doghouse. Now we're just having a break right now.
We're actually talking about the weather, to be honest with you, because, I mean, what are you going to do here? We've invented a couple of games, though, like canoeing in the front lawn, and actually the big talk this week has been how to clean a submerged basement. So things like wet and dry vacuuming has been very big. And as for tourism, well, we just don't have tourists in Manitoba. So, the one good thing, though, Ian, I have to say, is with all the rain, it's actually killed the mosquitoes. They've drowned.
Yeah, but I saw on the news last night that the mosquitoes are going to be back with a vengeance now that you have all that water around you.
Yeah, it's apparently going to be a bloodbath. Come on down.
Oh, absolutely. I just, the show wraps up very shortly here.
In Vancouver, we're used to ignoring the weather, and in fact, here it's the secret to happiness. It's the majority of Vancouverites who actually live here, they're not doing anything different than they would normally do.
Yeah.
The only time a true Vancouverite brings out their umbrella is when it snows. Vancouverites, as you know, are afraid of the snow. As far as the tourists are concerned, they're a bitter group, because during the 1 week of sunshine that we get per year, of course, all the tourist photography takes place. And as a result, they stream in only to find, of course, what it's really like here. And so we have a lot of very melancholy looking tourists poking about the shops on Robson Street.
We've seen them before.
John,
Yes.
There's a reason all those Vancouverites are ignoring the weather. It's because they're all from Winnipeg.
Well, yes, of course, we're all from back east, and it's better than home, of course. The other thing, of course, at this time of year is that at the moment we're gearing up for a religious war over the Carmanah Valley. We're going to decide once and for all the relationship between man and nature, and it will all be fought out there. We're all looking forward to that.
Rick, if 4 or 5 years from now somebody asks you to look back at the summer of '93 and let's say write an essay about it, how will you characterize the Canadian summer of '93?
Well, I guess it's not only us, obviously. It's just been miserable all across the country. So I guess it'll just be like that miserable summer. And I guess, people walk around, old folks now, and they say, well, the summer of '46 was really awful. And I guess hopefully now the summer of '93 will be my summer of '46, and it'll only get better from here, please God.
Well, I should point out that people in Toronto aren't going to say that. The weather in the last week or so has been terrific. I think perhaps longer than that. And Katie, you'd probably say that people in Montreal will look back at the summer of '93 rather fondly.
Oh, absolutely. I think that every year you think you're going to do something wonderful and different and adventuresome with your summer. And of course, some people do. They head out of town, they go on trips. But this year, what I notice around town is just that great sense of hedonism in your own backyard. I mean, the whole city being your backyard. I think a lot of people don't have a lot of money for traveling, so some of them are staying in town and enjoying the different festivals, but it's the physicality of just being able to take everything off except t-shirt and shorts and sit around and drink a beer outside and watch the sun and store up the memories for what you know is coming, which are those months that begin in about 2 months from now and last until April, or if you have a lousy spring, till May. And you know you have to make the wine of memory now because it just ain't going to be there. And people are really enjoying it. I noticed it during the Jazz Festival. Just a lot of vegging out, watching people enjoying just that sensation of that. I mean, now that the sun has become forbidden fruit and we're not even supposed to sit out in it, there's something kind of sinful and maybe a little bit of that edge of a forbidden pleasure of just sitting out and snagging bennies.
Well, you know what, Ian and Katie, I have to say this, don't get too smug, because I was researching when I should be taking my holidays this year. So there's this satellite long-ranging imaging thing in Winnipeg, and then I phoned New Hampshire to the farmer's almanac, and I phoned this guy out in Souris, Manitoba, who forecasts weather by putting bear fat on the windowsill. And Manitoba is going to be hot and sunny for the first 2 weeks of August, and the east is going to be rainy, 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 and cold.
Ooh. Everywhere?
Yeah. Or got it from the bear fat on the windowsill.
Well, I think we've got those bear fat prognosticators out here, actually, because we were threatened a drought, actually, in July and August. We were said that our gardens would all wizen up and die, but that hasn't happened. And in fact, it's really quite pleasant here. It's always quite pleasant here. And I think that we Canadians tend to use the weather as a focus for other forms of unhappiness, so that we can put it down to something that we can't do anything about, as opposed to doing things about it. I think that Canada is as nice a place as any. I don't think the weather's very good any place in the world right now, as far as I can tell. And all in all, I'm rather enjoying the summer myself.
And Rick, one thing I didn't ask you about, let me ask you about that now. I know that for some Newfoundlanders, the brief growing season is a very important time for nice gardens and that sort of thing. Have you managed to salvage anything out in the garden?
Well, I'm, I suppose, what you call a amateur gardener. I just go to the florist and I pick out something I like and I just kind of dig the hole and put it in and hope that all goes well. And of course, everything died. But of course, the professional gardeners, they've done okay, and I have to agree with your other chap there. Canadians kind of have a funny attitude about the weather. And like today, as people were walking by me here in this glorious sunshine, people were saying things like, well, it's a lovely day, but it's a bit too hot. So
you can't go into an elevator in Canada without discussing the weather with somebody briefly. It seems to be the national topic. I just wish we'd stop it. I think one of the reasons Canadians like to go down south to Jamaica and places like that is that in those places the weather is not a topic. People don't talk about it there.
So we shouldn't even be talking about the weather.
Well, I think that we're exhibiting our symptoms by
what are we going to talk about?
Really.
The economy?
I find the whole idea of the construction holiday an interesting topic. I mean, we've had a construction holiday now for about 2 years. I'm amazed now that anyone would have a construction holiday.
Hey, you guys should, at least you have construction going on.
So all in all, it sounds like we end up talking about the weather again. I was talking to somebody yesterday who says they spend about 3 or 4 hours on the weekend watching the Weather Channel just so they can find out what other Canadians are doing. And it sounds to me like, John's protests aside, that the weather is really giving us a sense of what the summer's like in different parts of the country this time around.
Watching the Weather Channel, my gosh, what a pathetic way to spend your time.
Well, pass that on to the person.
I'm afraid to watch the Weather Channel now. I keep expecting them to predict frogs and locusts will be coming next, so I've just stopped altogether.
Are you guys getting now this UV damage? So even if it is sunny, you can't send anybody outside, you can't go outside, you're going to fry like a barbecue potato chip. Don't watch that Weather Channel. Firstly, the music is terrible and the news is all bad.
And I should point out at this point that later on in the week, I pledge to do the bear fat analysis for the rest of the country, and we'll see what we expect in August. Thank you, folks, very much.
Thanks, Ian.
Enjoy the rest of your summer.
Enjoy your summer, Ian.
Okay,
yes.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. What summer was that, Ian?
Well, we're waiting for it, I know, in certain parts of the country, but in Toronto, it's been, for those who care, a remarkable summer.
Yeah, I'm just going to go for a quick swim.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, still with the weather, it did stop raining in Winnipeg. Please stay with us. We'll be right back with this story.
Move it! Run. Boy, I tell you, this really takes me back. Some of my best childhood memories were playing baseball with my dad, and he taught me everything I know. I mean, he taught me how to catch, how to hit, how to put stuff on the ball. Okay, ready? The old fart ball. Oh, he kills it. Good hit. Well, now I get to be the one doing the teaching, and I get to be the big, strong daddy, and believe me, I'm having a ball. Unfortunately, I can't help but remember, coincidentally, right around when I became a teenager, my daddy, he grew really, well, dumb. You know, he was really uncool. He wouldn't let me do anything. He wouldn't let me drive before I was 16, you know, stuff like that. Fortunately, it wasn't a permanent case, because I remember as I got a little older, fortunately, he became a little smarter. Now, he's one of the smartest guys I know. So in a way, I'm mentally preparing myself. As I approach 50 and my kids are going to be teenagers, it's inevitable. I'm preparing myself mentally to get really dumb. Oh, big home run batter. Well, anyway, at least I know I'm not going to be dumb for a little while yet. And when I am, it's not going to be permanent. Ready, bat up, putting lots of stuff on this one this time. Swing! Wow! Another homer.
No, Peter, your kids won't call you dumb forever. They're just going to say you're wrong. That's our show for today. Remember, we like to hear from you with your story ideas and suggestions. Please write to us at 50up.